I had a lot of the same experiences. My first, shall I say, snafu came before I ever left the country. I got to the airport for a 12:30 flight from Boston to New York. And at 12 o'clock, they didn't say to load. 12:15, they didn't say to load. 12:45, 15 minutes past leaving time, they still didn't say anything. Finally, about 1:10, they said, "We're very sorry, but the plane that we expected to take you to New York had maintenance problems, and it's not going to fly today." So here we already are an hour late, and find out we're not going to fly anywhere on that plane today. But then they came on about 10 minutes later and said, "We're going to try to reroute people as best we can. Please, when you hear your name called, come up." And whose was the first name that was called? I went up, and they said they rebooked me on a direct flight from Boston to Amsterdam, leaving 20 minutes after the flight from New York to Amsterdam would have left. So not only did I get a direct flight, instead of spending 6 hours in 2 airports, I spent 6 hours in 1 airport and got to watch the World Cup qualifier. So they took what could have been bad and made it a success. And of course, we've already covered the trouble getting there in the plane, or once we got into Germany. The team setup, I had I was assigned to be the referee for UA2 FB and RA2 FA, Dimitri and Dimitri. So every time you said Dimitri, they would both look at you. They had K3s, no pan adapters, and they spent the first hour dutifully putting in a single point ground for all of their equipment, which is fine, except they finally plugged in their first power supply, turned the radio on, and poof, some part let out the smoke. And they said, it must just be a bad power supply. So they hooked up the second DC power supply. Poof, let out the smoke. 2 DC power supplies. At this point, they're saying, well, wait a minute. But then one of the single point ground wires connected to the power supply, they noticed was kind of sparking as it wasn't making quite a secure contact. So they undid it, and sure enough, all of a sudden, one of the power supplies started to work. So they said, well, we got a second power supply. They put a second power supply on. So now, actually that was the third power supply. So now they had 2 power supplies. Then they started keying the radio. 9 volts, 14 volts, 6 volts. It was obvious the power supply regulator was shot. So what are they going to do? One of the Germans actually made arrangements and picked up a 25 amp supply from another German. They put that in, tore out their single point ground, and they were good to go for the contest. The Nokia phone. I still haven't figured out how to turn it on. Yeah, I can't figure out how to do that, so I'll just talk. The Nokia phone. I still haven't figured out how to turn it on. Actually, I dropped it, and it worked. So, what am I going to say? The scoring computer. Well, I never could get the scoring computer to work. Here you go. Which was good, and it was bad. What was good is since I couldn't get it to work, I had to send an SMS message every half an hour. Well, that means you get to stay up all night. Of course, I was going to be up anyway, but at least I had something to do while I was staying up. Every half an hour, I had to send how many QSOs, how many multipliers, and what their score was. And I don't think I was more than 5 minutes late for any one of those. But still, that's one of the things that happens. My particular team, I knew they were in trouble after the second hour. I think they had like 140 cues a second hour. One guy, of course, was running on 20. The other guy, didn't matter what he did, he just never could seem to get anything going. And after the second and third hour, I think it was 140 and 160, I figured they were out of it. Overall, they didn't do too bad. I think they finished in the middle 30s. Another interesting thing, they never sent at less than 38 words a minute. And a lot of the times, they were in the mid-40s when they were sending on code. And what it told me, watching them in the back of my mind, is I've gotten used to operating at 30, 32 words a minute. And for this level of competition, that's not fast enough. I think 46 was too fast, perhaps, but 38 certainly. And talking to other people after the contest, they said 38 to 40 was about where most teams were operating. Yeah, we baked during the day and we froze at night. Put everything on we had at night and we still froze. I had the opportunity to sit with the Lithuanian, one of the Lithuanian team members, because after the contest, I was part of a group that went to Poland, Belarus, and then Lithuania. We attended a Lithuanian Hamfest. The Lithuanian team made the ultimate sacrifice. 30 days before the contest, they stopped drinking alcohol. They went 30 days without alcohol. And they did that as a way of disciplining themselves and to make sure they could stay awake and sharp the whole time. And it certainly sounds like it worked. Any questions? It was a good time. At the end of the contest, I have to tell you, I was physically exhausted, and I didn't even make a cue.